Welcome to another deep dive, everybody. And today we're going to, take a look at a classic. We're going to go beyond the surface
Definitely. Beyond the surface.
of a true classic, the original Japanese version of Rodan from 1956.
Go.
The OG.
Yes. We're going back to the source, unearthing the nuances and cultural context.
Right. And that often get lost in translation.
Yeah.
So, we've got a mountain of material.
Yes.
Articles, reviews, production notes. I even found some gems from fan sites
Oh, really?
like Wikizilla and Gojipedia.
Yeah, I love it.
So, this isn't just about the facts and figures.
Right.
We're looking for the heart of the film.
Yeah.
The anxieties, the artistry, the themes that make Rodan soar
Totally.
beyond a typical monster movie.
Oh, yeah.
So prepare yourself,
Absolutely.
This deep dive might reveal some surprising connections and make you see Rodan
Oh, yeah. For sure.
in a whole new light.
In a whole new light.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Let's get into it.
Rodan begins with this chilling mystery.
Yeah.
A series of gruesome murders in a small mining town.
Right.
And the prime suspects
Mm.
are the Meganulon.
Wow.
Giant predatory dragonfly nymphs.
Straight out of prehistory.
Straight out of prehistory, yeah.
Yeah. Now imagine yourself
Oh my God.
in post-war Japan,
Right.
a nation rapidly industrializing,
Mm-hmm.
but still haunted by that specter of war.
Yeah.
And then suddenly, these monstrous insects
Right.
emerge from the depths of a mine.
Oh.
It's a stark reminder of the dangers
Yeah, lurking.
lurking beneath the surface, both literally
Oh,
and figuratively.
right. Literally and figuratively. Adding to the mystery, we have Shigeru,
Oh, yeah, Shigeru.
a mine engineer suffering from amnesia.
Ah.
He can't remember the events
Oh, wow.
leading up to the murders,
Wow.
making him both a potential witness and a possible suspect.
Absolutely. Now, Shigeru's amnesia, though,
Oh, okay.
it isn't just a plot device.
Okay.
It reflects a broader societal anxiety about the loss of control,
Oh,
the fear of forgetting the past and repeating its mistakes.
Mhm.
Remember, this is a Japan grappling with the trauma of war
Right,
and the uncertainty of a rapidly changing world.
right. And then the clues start pointing to something far larger
Far larger.
than those creepy crawlers.
Yeah.
Supersonic UFO sightings,
Uh-huh.
a honeymooning couple vanishing into thin air,
Oh, no.
a photo capturing a gigantic wingtip.
Okay. That's creepy.
Right.
I gotta say, though, the original Japanese tagline really captures the mood. Is it a flying battleship?
Oh, yeah. That's a great tagline.
Yeah, speaks volumes
Right.
about the cultural anxieties at play, blurring the lines
Right.
between natural forces
Yeah.
and military might.
Oh, okay.
The trauma of World War II, with its powerful warplanes and devastating bombs, is clearly still fresh
Okay.
in the collective consciousness.
So the tension builds, the mystery deepens.
Right, and then
Then, bam,
bam.
Rodan bursts onto the scene.
Yes.
Erupting from Mount Aso in a spectacle of fire and fury.
Oh, yeah.
And we're not talking about some lumbering beast.
No way.
This thing moves at supersonic speed,
Oh, my gosh.
leaving a trail of sonic booms and utter devastation in its wake.
And this is where Rodan truly elevates itself.
Uh-huh.
It goes beyond a simple monster movie.
Right.
It's not just about a creature wreaking havoc. It's about a world teetering on the brink,
Right.
grappling with anxieties about technology, destruction, and the possibility of annihilation.
And speaking of annihilation,
Yeah.
the attack on Fukuoka
Oh, gosh.
is absolutely terrifying.
Yeah.
The sheer scale of the destruction.
Oh, man.
Buildings crumbling, fires raging.
Yeah.
It's like watching a city be ripped apart.
Wow.
And the JSDF attempts to stop Rodan. Let's just say conventional weapons are about as effective as throwing pebbles at a hurricane.
Oh, yeah. Talk about futility. That sense of helplessness, of being utterly powerless
Right.
against a force of nature.
Yeah.
It really reflects like a very real fear in the atomic age.
Right.
The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were still fresh in the minds of many,
Right.
and Rodan's destructive power mirrored that same potential for catastrophic destruction.
It's interesting, though, because while Godzilla is often seen as the embodiment of the atomic bomb, Rodan was actually initially conceived as a symbol
Oh, wow.
of the Soviet Union's nuclear threat.
Exactly. And this distinction really highlights the complexities
Right.
of the Cold War era,
Right.
where anxieties about nuclear annihilation
Yeah.
were coming from multiple directions.
Right.
It wasn't just about one big bad, right?
Yeah, right.
The threat was perceived as global, and Rodan tapped into that global fear.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Despite being steeped in these Cold War anxieties, Rodan found an audience in the West.
Right.
The American release, while edited, retained much of the original's emotional impact.
It speaks to that universality of certain themes, the power of storytelling, to transcend cultural boundaries.
Right.
Even if you didn't live through the horrors of war
Right.
or understand the nuances of Japanese culture, you could still feel like that raw emotion, the primal fear that Rodan evoked. It was a monster movie, yes.
Right.
But it was also a mirror reflecting humanity's deepest anxieties.
Right. Okay. So we've got this supersonic terror.
Oh, yeah.
Tearing through cities.
Right.
Leaving a path of destruction in its wake.
Uh-huh.
And then, just when you think it can't get any worse,
Oh, no.
a second Rodan appears.
Oh, what?
And it's not just any Rodan.
Oh, no.
It's the first one's mate.
Oh, my God.
Talking about a twist.
Yeah. The introduction of the second Rodan
Oh, okay.
adds a whole new layer of depth
Right.
to the film. Suddenly, it's not just about mindless destruction.
Oh.
It's about connection, loyalty, and the powerful bond between these two creatures.
So what does the JSDF do with two unstoppable supersonic monsters on the loose?
Right. What do you do?
Well, they come up with a daring plan.
Yeah.
To trigger a volcanic eruption at Mount Aso, hoping to trap the Rodans in the molten inferno.
Oh, wow.
But this plan comes at a terrible cost.
Uh-oh.
The complete destruction of the town of Kitamatsu.
This is where the film's commentary on humanity's destructive nature
Right.
becomes even more potent
Yeah.
in trying to stop the Rodans.
Uh-huh.
We end up causing even more devastation.
Right.
It raises questions about the lengths we're willing to go to in the name of safety
Oh.
and the unintended consequences of our actions.
And then we get that gut-wrenching climax.
Oh, no.
The Rodans, trapped and injured, choose to plunge into the erupting volcano together, rather than face a life apart. It's a scene that's both visually stunning and emotionally devastating.
This ending, it's so open to multiple interpretations. Is it a tragic love story? A commentary on the destructive nature of both humanity and the monsters we create. An anti-war message about the futility of violence.
Right.
Or perhaps it's a combination of all of these.
It's like a monster version of, like Romeo and Juliet.
Right.
A tale of love and loss, set against a backdrop of destruction and despair.
But there's a deeper resonance here.
Yeah.
A connection to the anxieties of post-war Japan, where the memories of loss and the fear of repeating past mistakes were still raw and potent.
And that, I think, is what makes the original Japanese version of Rodan so powerful.
Yeah.
It's a film that works on multiple levels as a thrilling monster movie.
Yeah.
A thought-provoking social commentary.
Right.
And a reflection of the deepest anxieties of its time. Okay, before we move on, let's just highlight some key facts
Yeah, let's do it.
that make Rodan stand out,
Yeah.
even within the world of kaiju films.
Yeah.
First,
Okay.
it was Toho's first color kaiju film,
What?
a visual feast for audiences accustomed to black and white monster mayhem.
Right. And unlike some Americanized versions of Japanese monster movies, the American release of Rodan, while edited, was surprisingly respectful to the source material.
Wow, that's great.
The King brothers, who produced the American version, understood that Rodan was more than just a creature feature.
Right.
They saw the human drama, the emotional core, and they preserved that essence.
Another key element is the focus on supersonic flight as a source of Rodan's power.
Oh, yeah.
This wasn't just a big lumbering beast. It was a creature of speed and agility,
Oh, yeah, like a jet.
able to outmaneuver jets
Totally.
and create sonic booms that could shatter entire city blocks.
Oh, my God.
And of course, there's that tragic dimension,
Yeah.
added by the bonded Rodans choosing to die together rather than live alone.
Oh, wow.
It's this element of sacrifice, this potent blend of love and loss
Yeah.
that elevates Rodan beyond a simple monster on the loose narrative.
Oh, yeah. For sure. For sure.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, we have.
The mystery,
So?
a monster,
Yeah.
the mayhem, and that heartbreaking ending.
Oh, man.
But there's one more thing we need to address,
Yeah.
and it's a big one.
Okay.
Does Rodan a film released in 1956, still holds relevance in today's world.
That's a big one.
Are the anxieties it depicts, fear of the unknown,
Yeah.
technological hubris,
Right.
the consequences of our actions,
Oh.
still relevant in the 21st century?
That's a question we'll tackle head on
Oh.
in the next part of our deep dive. Because, believe it or not, the world of Rodan might be closer to our own reality than you think.
Wow. Okay, so stay tuned, everybody.
Yeah, we'll be right back. So we left off with this question. Does a film like Rodan, born out of the anxieties of 1950s Japan, still have something to say to us today?
Right. I mean, it's easy to dismiss Rodan as a product of its time.
Yeah.
A relic of Cold War paranoia.
Yeah.
But if we look closer, I think we'll find some unsettling parallels to our modern world.
Exactly. Let's start with that mining disaster, right? That sets the whole story in motion.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just some, random plot device. It's a symbol of humanity's relentless pursuit of progress.
Right.
Often at the expense of the natural world.
It reminds me of those environmental challenges that we're facing today,
Yeah.
Climate change, deforestation, pollution.
Totally. Yeah.
It's like we're constantly pushing the boundaries of nature, risking these unintended consequences.
Precisely. And Rodan doesn't shy away from showing those consequences.
Right.
The destruction caused by the Rodans isn't just a spectacle.
Right.
It's a stark reminder of the power of nature
Well.
and the potential for our actions to unleash forces
Oh, right.
we can't control.
And remember those Meganulon,
Oh, yeah, those creepy crawlers.
those giant prehistoric insects emerging from the mine. They weren't just these monstrous creatures. They were symbols of the things we try to bury, the consequences we try to ignore.
Exactly. It's like those Meganulon represent those unintended consequences of our actions, the things we try to sweep under the rug.
Right.
But eventually they come crawling back, demanding our attention.
Right. It's a powerful metaphor
Yeah.
for the way we deal with environmental problems today.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
We often ignore the warning signs, hoping the problem will go away on its own.
Right.
But as Rodan shows us, those problems rarely disappear.
Right.
They just mutate and grow
Okay.
until they can no longer be ignored.
And then there's that theme of technological hubris, the belief that we can control everything, even forces of nature.
Right. The JSDF's attempts to stop the Rodans
Oh, yeah.
with conventional weapons come to mind. It's like they're trying to fight a hurricane with a water pistol.
Exactly. Exactly. And that sense of futility.
Right.
That feeling of being overwhelmed by forces beyond our comprehension. It's something that resonates deeply in our modern world.
Right. Think about the challenges we're facing today. Pandemics.
Right.
Cyber attacks.
Yeah.
Climate disasters.
Uh-huh.
It's like we're constantly being reminded
Yeah.
of the limits of our control, the fragility of our systems.
Totally.
Rodan also touches on this theme of loss
Yeah.
and the difficulty of letting go.
Right.
Shiru's amnesia, his inability to remember the traumatic events of the mining disaster,
Right.
speaks to like a broader societal anxiety about forgetting the past.
Yeah, it's like that collective amnesia,
Right.
that fear of losing our history.
It's like we're afraid of losing our memories, our history, our connection to who we are.
Yeah.
And in a world that's constantly changing, that fear of forgetting can be incredibly powerful.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's the ending of Rodan with those two creatures choosing to die together rather than face a life apart.
Yeah.
It's this heart-wrenching scene that speaks to the power of connection, the need for love and companionship, even in the face of, unimaginable destruction.
It's a reminder that even the most monstrous creatures are capable of feeling love, loyalty, and grief.
Yeah.
And in a way, it makes their sacrifice even more tragic.
The ending of Rodan also raises questions about the cost of survival, right? Is it worth sacrificing everything, our homes, our communities, even our loved ones, to defeat a threat that might be beyond our control?
It's a question that has no easy answers.
No.
And it's one that we continue to grapple with today as we face challenges like climate change and global pandemics.
So while Rodan might be a product of its time, the themes it explores, environmental destruction, technological hubris, the costs of survival remain as relevant as ever.
Right. And that's what makes it such a powerful and enduring film.
Yeah.
It's not just a monster movie. It's a reflection of our own hopes and fears.
Yeah.
Our anxieties about the future and our enduring fascination with the unknown.
Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about something that really sets Rodan apart visually. its groundbreaking use of color.
Oh, yeah.
This was Toho's first color kaiju film, and they didn't hold back.
Imagine seeing those vibrant colors for the first time in 1956. Those fiery reds and oranges of the volcanic eruptions.
Oh, yeah.
The deep blues and greens of the underwater sequences.
Oh, wow.
It must have been a visual feast for audiences accustomed to black and white monster movies.
Absolutely. And it wasn't just about spectacle. The use of color in Rodan was very deliberate, very symbolic. It enhanced the storytelling in subtle but powerful ways.
For example, the fiery reds and oranges associated with Rodan's destructive power
All right.
could be interpreted as a reflection of the anxiety surrounding nuclear weapons.
Exactly. Those colors evoke this sense of heat, danger, uncontrolled power, all those emotions tied to the threat of nuclear war.
Right.
And the use of, cool blues and greens in scenes set in the mining town or underwater
Oh, yeah?
could be seen as representing the natural world, a world that's being threatened by human actions.
It's like the film is using color to create a visual language.
Yeah.
A way of communicating these deeper meanings and emotions beyond just the dialogue and plot.
Precisely. The filmmakers understood that color wasn't just, a decorative element.
Right.
It was this powerful storytelling tool that could evoke mood, symbolism, and emotional depth.
And this attention to detail, this willingness to use every element of filmmaking to tell a compelling story, is what elevates Rodan above your average monster movie.
Let's also talk about, the technical achievements of Rodan.
Oh, yeah.
The special effects, especially for 1956, were groundbreaking.
Right.
Eiji Tsuburaya, the special effects wizard behind Godzilla,
Yeah.
and so many other Toho classics, he really outdid himself with this one.
Those scenes of the Rodans flying over the city, creating those sonic booms,
Yeah.
must have been mind-blowing for audiences back then.
Totally.
The way they captured the speed,
Yeah.
the agility,
Yeah.
the sheer power of these creatures, it's still impressive today.
Absolutely. And remember, this was all done with practical effects.
Right.
Miniatures, puppetry, wires, forced perspective. There was no CGI back then.
Right.
It was all about ingenuity, craftsmanship, and a deep understanding of filmmaking techniques.
I've always been fascinated by the artistry and dedication that went into those practical effects. It's like they're creating magic right before your eyes.
And there's a certain charm to those practical effects, this tangible, visceral quality that CGI sometimes lacks.
Right.
You can really feel the weight, the texture, the reality of those creatures on screen, even if you know they're not real.
Right. I've read that those Rodan suits were incredibly detailed and heavy.
Oh, yeah, they were.
The actors who wore them had to endure intense heat, limited visibility, and restricted movement. Talk about dedication to the craft.
Haruo Nakajima, the actor who played Godzilla in the original 1954 film.
Oh, wow.
He also played Rodan in some scenes, and he purportedly almost drowned.
Oh, my God.
During one scene where the wires holding him above a water tank snapped.
Wow. That's dedication. And it speaks to the level of commitment that went into creating these films. It wasn't just a job. It was an art form, a passion project.
And that passion is evident in every frame of Rodan,
Right.
from those meticulously crafted miniature sets to the carefully choreographed monster battles. Everything in the film just feels so considered, so purposeful.
And it's not just about the visuals. The sound design in Rodan is equally impressive.
Oh, yeah?
Those ear-splitting shrieks the Rodans make as they break the sound barrier
Oh, my gosh.
still send chills down my spine.
Those shrieks were the creation of sound technician Ichiro Manawa, a true master of his craft.
Wow.
He layered sped-up human voices with other sounds to create that truly otherworldly effect.
It's amazing how much creativity and ingenuity went into creating these soundscapes. They weren't just random noises. They were carefully crafted elements designed to evoke specific emotions and enhance the overall impact of the film.
And let's not forget about the acting Kenji Sahara, who played Shuguru.
Yeah.
He brought a lot of depth and nuance to that role.
Right.
Portraying a character dealing with amnesia is no easy feat.
No.
But he managed to convey Shiru's confusion, fear, and ultimately his heroism in this convincing way.
Yeah, I was impressed by Sahara's performance.
Oh, yeah.
He had this quiet intensity that really drew you in. And his chemistry with Yumi Shirakawa, who played Kyo, was fantastic. They really captured the sense of love and determination in the face of unimaginable terror.
Absolutely. And that human element, that sense of connection and resilience in the face of adversity, is what makes Rodan more than just a monster movie.
Right.
It's a story about people, their relationships, and their capacity for courage and compassion, even in the darkest of times.
So we've explored the themes, the visuals, the sound design, the acting. It's clear that Rodan was a film made with passion, artistry, and a deep understanding of filmmaking.
But there's one more element we need to discuss, and it's a big one. Rodan's place within that larger kaiju genre, and specifically its relationship to the king of the monsters himself.
Oh.
Godzilla.
Yes. How could we forget about Godzilla?
Right.
He might be the undisputed king of the kaiju world. But Rodan holds like a special place in the hearts of many fans, including myself.
And rightfully so. While Rodan was a standalone film, the character eventually became, this recurring player in the Godzilla franchise.
Oh, yeah. And a pretty popular one at that.
Oh, yeah.
Rodan has appeared in several Godzilla films, often as like an ally to the king of the monsters.
Exactly. And I think there's something fascinating about the way Rodan's role has evolved over time.
You mean how it started as this like menacing, destructive force in its own film? But eventually it became more of a heroic figure in later Godzilla movies.
Precisely. It's almost like Rodan went through a similar transformation to Godzilla himself.
Oh, okay.
Remember, Godzilla started as a symbol of nuclear destruction, but eventually became more of this protector of humanity, a force for good in a world threatened by even more dangerous monsters.
Right. It's like we're seeing this shift in our cultural understanding of monsters. Instead of simply fearing them, we're starting to see them as these complex creatures with their own motivations and complexities.
Totally. And sometimes those monsters even become our allies in the face of greater threats.
Which is a pretty cool concept when you think about it. It's like we're acknowledging that sometimes the things we fear the most might actually be the key to our survival.
Now, let's talk a bit more about the reception of Rodan, both in Japan and internationally.
Okay. I'm curious about how Western audiences reacted to a film like Rodan. Especially back in the 1950s. Considering the cultural differences. And the fact that it was like a foreign film.
Well, Rodan was actually one of the first Japanese films to receive a wide release in the U.S., and it was quite successful.
Oh, wow.
Which speaks to the universal appeal of the monster movie genre. People all over the world are fascinated by these stories of giant creatures wreaking havoc.
But it's not just about mindless destruction, is it? There's something deeper going on in these films, something that resonates with audiences on this more like primal level.
Absolutely. I think monster movies tap into our deepest fears and anxieties. Fear of the unknown, the uncontrollable, the destructive power of nature.
Right.
But they also offer a sense of catharsis, like a way of experiencing those fears in a safe and controlled environment.
It's like we're confronting our anxieties through this lens of fiction. And in doing so, we're able to process them and maybe even overcome them.
And let's not forget the sheer spectacle of these films, the visual effects, the sound design, the epic battles between giant monsters. It's all incredibly entertaining.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. But I want to circle back to a question we raised earlier. Are the anxieties depicted in Rodan still relevant today? Have we truly moved past those fears of nuclear war, environmental destruction, and the unintended consequences of technological advancement?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think the answer is both yes and no. We might not be facing, giant pterosaurs, but the themes of Rodan, that fear of the unknown, the consequences of human actions, the power of nature, are more relevant than ever.
Right. Think about the challenges we're facing today. Climate change, pandemics, political instability, artificial intelligence.
Oh, yeah.
It's like we're living in like a real-life Rodan scenario.
Totally. Yeah.
Where the monsters are real and the stakes are higher than ever.
And just like those characters in Rodan,
right,
we're grappling with questions of how to survive, how to protect ourselves, and how to make sense of a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable.
So what can we learn from a film like Rodan, a film made over 60 years ago, in a completely different cultural context?
That's a question we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive. Because, believe it or not, Rodan has a lot to teach us about ourselves, our world, and the monsters we create, both literally and figuratively.
We've spent this whole deep dive exploring, the depths of the original Rodan, the anxieties it reflects, the technical marvels, and, its enduring relevance.
Yeah. But as we wrap up, I think it's time to face the most crucial question.
Okay.
What can we learn from a film like Rodan today in a world grappling with its own set of monsters.
Right. It's easy to, kind of brush it off as, oh, it's just a monster movie.
Right.
But I think Rodan offers, some surprisingly insightful lessons
Yeah.
about humanity's relationship with nature, technology, and even ourselves.
One key takeaway, I think, is that ignoring problems doesn't make them disappear. Remember those meganolin, those prehistoric insects weren't just monstrous villains.
Oh, yeah.
They were symbols of the consequences we try to bury, hoping they'll stay hidden.
Right. Like how we often downplay environmental damage or ignore the potential downsides of new technologies until it's almost too late.
Exactly. Rodan reminds us that these consequences have a way of resurfacing, often with even greater force than before. The film encourages us to confront problems head-on, to acknowledge the potential risks before they escalate into these full-blown disasters.
Yeah. Another lesson's about humility. In the face of forces beyond our control,
Right.
the JSDF's futile attempts to stop Rodan, with conventional weapons,
Right.
it highlights how easily our technology can be outmatched by, like, the sheer power of nature.
It's a reminder that despite our, advancements, we're not invincible. Nature holds this power that we can try to understand and harness, but ultimately we can't fully control. Rodan encourages us to respect those forces, to approach them with caution and an awareness of our limitations.
And what about, like, that heartbreaking ending
Oh, man.
with the Rodans choosing to die together rather than live alone?
Yeah.
Can we, take away from that?
On one level, I think it's a powerful testament to, love and connection, even in the face of unimaginable destruction. But it also forces us to consider the cost of survival. Is it worth sacrificing everything, our homes, our communities, even our loved ones, to defeat a threat that might be beyond our control?
It's a complex question
Yeah.
with no easy answers,
Right.
and one that resonates deeply in our world today.
Absolutely.
We're facing global challenges that require difficult choices and potential sacrifices. Rodan reminds us to approach those challenges with a sense of empathy, understanding that sometimes the hardest decisions are also the most necessary.
The film also prompts us to question our own role in creating the monsters we fear. Did humanity's actions, the mining, the disruption of the natural world, awaken Rodan in the first place?
It's a question that echoes in our modern world. Are we contributing to the climate crisis, the rise of pandemics, the proliferation of destructive technologies? Rodan suggests that the monsters we fear may be reflections of our own actions, urging us to take responsibility for the impact we have on the planet and on each other.
And let's not forget the film's message about the power of storytelling itself.
Right.
Rodan, despite being rooted in specific anxieties of 1950s Japan, resonated with audiences worldwide. Why?
Because at its core, it's a story about human emotions, fear, love, loss, resilience. These are universal themes that transcend cultural boundaries and speak to our shared humanity.
Exactly. Rodan reminds us that stories can be powerful tools for exploring complex issues, for processing our anxieties, and for connecting with each other on a deeper level. And in a world that often feels divided and chaotic, that power of storytelling is more important than ever.
So as we emerge from this deep dive into Rodan, we're left with, I think, a richer understanding of the film itself, but also with some valuable insights about our own world and the challenges we face.
Yeah, the monsters we fear may take different forms today, but the core questions Rodan raises about our relationship with nature, technology, and each other remain, as relevant as ever.
And Rodan encourages us to, confront those questions head on, to embrace the power of storytelling, and to never stop questioning the monsters within and around us.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you gained a new appreciation for this classic kaiju film and for the enduring power of monster stories to reflect and challenge our understanding of the world.
And we'll see you next time.